husband Fabian and I had three beautiful children. Danica, born in 1994, who is in her second year at uni, Tristan, born in 1996, and Tiana in 2000. Tristan and Tiana were both diagnosed with a neurological condition called Gleason-Keifley. The photos on the slide are the last family photos that were taken before Tiana died in 2003 and Tristan died in 2014. Until Tristan and Tiana came into our lives, we were like any other young couple, trying to establish a career, have a home, and build a future for our children. Being migrants meant that for me, security was top priority. I feel that Tiana's legacy was to start a new line of research with Gleason-Keifley. Until we had Tiana, researchers had no thought that Gleason-Keifley was linked to a recessive gene. We are the first family in the world who has a male and a female in our family. Also, she helped us to feel that we could do anything. During her life, we had managed with two children with high needs, and it motivated us to do more with Tristan. Initially, my goal was for me to have left no stone unturned in trying to help my children achieve their best potential. But as time passed, my goal changed to me just wanting to have one special moment each day. And this could be as simple as reading a book to Tristan, listening to music, giving him a hand or foot massage. Basically, I tried to spend mindful time with Tristan, where the whole interaction was one-on-one and there were no interruptions. I got so much out of these interactions because it made me stop and relax. Tristan was rarely admitted to hospital. I think after the initial long stay in hospital when he was diagnosed, over the rest of his life he would have had less than 5 admissions to hospital. This is to set the scene for you to understand how much intervention we managed at home. I work at a hospital but absolutely hate hospitals when my children get admitted. It all started on May 4th. Tristan started having increased work of breathing. My birthday is on May 5th. And when Tristan was reviewed, we were told on my birthday that Tristan was dying. For a week, we gave him end-of-life drugs and thought he was dying. I started to notice that he was having urinary retention, and this was also taken to be a symptom of him dying. Tristan was the most stoic, uncomplaining child, and to see him in pain broke our hearts. I finally connected that Tristan's increased work of breathing was related to him being in pain from the urinary retention. I felt that we needed one decent night's sleep to feel strong enough to take Tristan home and to cope with all his cares. The nurses on the ward did 12-hour shifts. I honestly can tell you firsthand that the quality of the nursing care diminishes towards the end of the shift to the point of being very poor. I told Fabian that my plan was to stay with Tristan until he fell asleep and to directly hand over to the night nurse and to come home for the night. Fabian thought it was a bad idea because we had been doing most of Tristan's cares ourselves. No matter how good the nurse is, if parents are with the child, they do not always provide direct care, and it is assumed that the parents will do everything. We returned by 8:30 after keeping his room ready to bring him home. As we walked on, the nurse asked what time we would be leaving. We went into Tristan's room. He was awake and moaning. I pulled back the covers and he was lying in a fully soaked bed. His nappy was overflowing with urine and feces. The final straw was a message on the board that the night nurse had written, which said something along the lines of, "If I promise to be a good boy, will you take me home?" Suffice to say, Fabian and I packed everything and went home. Most of the sadness we experienced was not for ourselves but for our children, their poor health, their physical discomforts, the things that they could never do, and the obstacles that society creates. Just a total lack of people's understanding about the needs of people with disabilities. I knew that I was traumatized from the recent stay in hospital and the many end-of-life discussions that we had been having in hospital, and nearly all of them were in Tristan's room, in his presence. At least for me, I had Fabian to talk to, or I could access counseling. I realized that Tristan needed emotional support, and when I looked around, I soon saw how hard it would be to find suitable support for someone like Tristan, who was nonverbal and could not sign or use any of the augmented communication devices. There were 2 books that I really connected with and used regularly in the weeks leading up to Tristan's death. One was called The Next Place, and the other was called The Invisible String. It gave me a tool to bring up the subject of separations and dying. We talked about how when we die, we don't need to take any material things with us, and only the love of the people around us will stay with us. We had a wonderful week before he died. He started having increased work of breathing on Wednesday, and overnight in the early hours of Thursday morning, at 3 a.m., we called the After Us phone support, and Fabian and I inserted a subcutaneous needle and administered morphine. Fabian and I became hopeful and decided that after being in bed for 48 hours, we would get him up and maybe sit outside. We bathed him, dressed him, and sat him in his wheelchair. And I even got out his iPad and played some of his favorite games, Diamond Dash and Candy Crush. Tristan took his last breath just when I left to have a shower and Fabian was in the kitchen. My prayer had always been for his death to be as painless as possible. He died so soundlessly that even the care worker who was holding his hand had not realized that he had died. Tristan has left a much bigger legacy, and it's just because he survived longer. He taught me to trust my ability to read people, and I learned that there are wonderful, genuine people in this world. He brought a whole bunch of incredible people into our lives. He taught us resilience. His ability to smile through pain and suffering was incredible, and it made us learn to let the little things pass and to always step back and look at the big picture. Tristan had a Zen-like quality. People who met him and took time to get to know him always commented on his ability to make you forget everything and relax. Tristan's acceptance of his lot in life was amazing.